Back to our subject, the Law Enforcement Administration 1 or LEA 1, Law Enforcement Organization and Administration. So today I will be presenting to you the history of um, policing and structure, no? History and structure of police policing system. So, okay, okay. I hope I sound clear to you on your part and my video is also clear to you. Okay. So it started in English policing, no? The law enforcement system was really adapted from the English policing system. So the Americans were the first to use the policing system based on English roots. So they adapted the system so-called the hue and cry. The hue and cry system is used during those times when there is a crime perpetrated or committed. The witness will just make a loud noise or cry just to attract attention, and if somebody have heard the loud noise or voice, they will respond and began to track down the suspect, no, or arrest perhaps, no, for that matter. So it was also Alfred the Great who initiated his own system in England way back in from 9th to 10th century, the so-called the mutual pledge policing system. So what is a mutual pledge? A mutual pledge or mutual pledge system is a system of a group of 10 or a system of a group of families that compose of 10, and and that and that is called as the tithing. So when 10 families are grouped together, they call it tithing. So the tithing man become the leader of the tithing, or also known as the chief of the tithing. So he is responsible for the maintenance of peace and order, the enforcement of the law. He will also be responsible for uh, and accountable if any infraction committed by his group or in his group. So that is the essence of the mutual pledge. And then in England also, when the group of when the 10 tithings are grouped together, they are called 100, no? 100. The 100 is composed of 100 families. So meaning to say, the scope or the span of control, or the span of power of the head of the 100 is now wider because it's composed of 100 families that are grouped together. So when that families are grouped together, they are called 100. And that 100 is headed by a chief constable. So si chief constable ang mananagot kapag may mga problema sa kanyang 100. Yan. So in England also, when the hundreds are grouped together, they come up with another name, no? So the first word constable initiated or came from England. That term came from England. Constable is considered as the first real police officer in England. So what does it mean? It is appointed by a local nobleman or a wise man. So it's not from a king or it's not from a queen, but from other person who are trusted by the king and the queen. So they are called nobleman, no? So they are in charge of the weapons of the hundreds. So sino yung in charge? Si constable sa mga sandata or weapon na ng hundreds. Okay. Because of the geographic uh, area equivalent to the country, the hundred were then grouped together to form a shire. So if you are familiar with the word shire, it is I think from the movie Patriot and all other movies that reflects the history of battles in those time, people are grouped into hundreds and shire, no, especially in an autocratic country, no. In England, there are 52 shires, no, and that's how big their population is, no. So their population is divided into 52 shires. So the head of a shire is called shire reeve. So he will be again just like the role of the uh, tithing man or the hundred man. He is also responsible for the for the entire hundreds. So if we will compare it to now, he is a sheriff. No, so you try to imagine the b the the number of the people that he has to look upon in his daily work. Okay. In England, 1272 and 1307, they set up a curfew. They call it the Night Watch Program. So, what is this means? So, the Night Watch Program, it came with the principle that they are awake when we are asleep. So, parang ganon ang tema niya, Night Watch Program, parang mga neighborhood watch or to make it more simpler, CBO or CBO, no? Or barangay tanod. They are active at night. So the bailiffs are night watchmen to enforce the curfew. So they called it the bailiffs, no? Uh, so they adopted the system, the so-called the watch and ward. So what is a watch and ward system? Ito yon. So, the name given to the first night watch in cities and towns. So, the first night watch. So, take note of the term, the first night watch in cities and towns. It's called the watch and ward. They operated from sundown to sunrise or from sunset to sunrise. So, basically, uh, uh, when you are assigned in sundown from sundown to sunrise, uh, you are a member of a watch and ward. So your responsibility is to protect the property against fire. Uh, Maybe because during those time there are colonizers or say other tribe who will try to invade uh, territory, no? They also guarded the gates of the city and they arrested those who committed the offenses. The Statute of Winchester from in 1285 became known also because it created the watch and ward in cities and towns. So again, just to make you remember that their duty is from sundown to sunrise. So they are awake at night actually. Walang tulugan. So watch and ward. So it drafted eligible male to serve. So if you say the term is eligible, meaning you are capable of uh, uh, you are capable of um, performing a duty, no, without no with your able body, no, not disabled body. So you say eligible male. So these are adult, no. it's institutionalized the hue and cry. So they also adopt the hue and cry system, no? Pag may sumigaw, may umiyak, basically they will run after the person who committed the out the crime. The citizens had to maintain weapons in order to answer the call to arms. So now their weapons are mostly sabers, uh, ano, bows, street bows, spears, darts, and others. No, just to protect themselves in case of danger. So in England, 1750, the Industrial Revolution brought many people to the big cities. So this is also true to us because people are kining planning or dreaming to go to cities or big cities for a greener pasture. So as a result, the crime increased in cities and the highways leading to cities. So there are numerous increase of crime in cities because of the presence of the people. Civilian associations crop up and began creating their own private police force. So ito yung isang inisyatibo upang ang mga tao ay maprotektahan nila ang kanilang mga property because they cannot just let the government um, do their part, no? Do their part. The people also will begin to help the government, just to protect their own interests, their property, their families, and whatever. So that is why in England, in London, they created a police force called the Bow Street Runners. So from the term itself, bow. So ano ba yung bow? It's an arrow. Ano ba? It's an arrow. It's an arrow. Yeah, designed, no? Because during that time, I guess guns are not yet common to all, no? So the Bow Street Runners are established in 1950. They patrolled the streets and highways leading to London. So it was Sir Henry Fielding, one of the founders of the Bow Street Runners. He created the first real detective unit in London. So that is why this accomplishment of Sir Henry Fielding made him known to become the father of modern policing system. So take note of the word, the father of the modern policing system, Sir Henry Fielding. Okay. And on 19 and on 1829, Parliament passed bill creates London Police. So the London Police, it was also Sir Robert Peel as the Secretary of the Home, Secretary of the London Police. So he initiated uh, yung tinatawag ngayon na home security law, no, against created for terror, against terrorists, no, mga uh, attacks in to destabilize the government. So that is why the London Police was created. So yung Homeland Security. Yan. It was Sir Robert Peel who also initiated the uh, the London Metropolitan Police. So he employed 1,000 officers and he called it Bobbies because Robert Peel nickname is Bobby. So that's why they call them Bobbies. So they are so uh, they are so let us say, what do you call that? Uh, they can easily be seen. Yan. They can be easily be seen by the people because they wear uh, highly attracted uniform, or the color that they used is uh, bright, no, and can easily be detected by the people, or recognized rather by the people. So the structured along military lines. So most of the member of the bobbies or the London police coming from the military. Some of them came from the military. And the organizations was patterned to the military system. Yan, that's why they are also considered as one of the disciplined police force in London. Yan. Now here comes the American law enforcement. Uh, Colonists brought systems from Europe when they immigrated to colonies. Yan, of course, just like what uh, sino to si Douglas MacArthur, no? Douglas MacArthur, when he colonized our country, he left some traditions that are still up to now adopted by the people. So ito yon si Kwan, no, si just like the American. The Americans also are colonists. They are also colonizers, no? So they brought a system of policy, or policing system, to be specific, uh, to add to other country, no? So they also adopt the Shire no, policy. So again, the Shire is responsible for a number of hundreds, and they call it shire. So shire. So sa si again, parang ang term na ngayon na ginagamit natin yung sheriff. Oh, sheriff. Uh, I believe the word coming from sheriff, the term sheriff. Yan. Who was responsible for the law enforcement in the countries? Yes. Now, the constable was responsible for law enforcement in towns. So again, the word here is constable, account of able-bodied male individual or citizen. So meaning to say, the term is constable. Even in our country, we use constable, PC, Philippine Constabulary, constable, Philippine Constable. So their responsibility is to enforce law in towns. So before the revolution, they both were appointed by the crown. So parang king and queen pa rin ang nag-appoint ng mga constables dati. Okay. And then here comes the American frontier, the vast and wild until late 19th century. So if we try to remember, if you take note the word vast and wild, meaning hindi pa klaro ang sistema ng law enforcement dati nung unang panahon. Kasi parang parang ang nangyari, parang marami ang duel, yung tinatawag natin na mga duel, no? Duel, gun duel. Oh. Oh. So natural haven for outlaws and bandits. So because of the proliferation of the use of gun during those time, and also the lapses of the implementation of law, outlaws and bandits became popular. Yung mga outlaw, you say outlaw, these are person who do not recognize a law, no? Mga sila, para din silang mga terrorist, parang ganun, no? They do not recognize law, no? So bandits, no? The bandits usually their main purpose is to attack and in a surprise manner, and then grab food or supplies, and then go back from where they they reside or stay. The citizen possesses the so-called vigilantes. So vigilantes. So that is why in the in the kuan no, in the uh, uh, yung tinatawag natin na mga idealism, no? Nag-initiate na lang ang mga private individuals that they will form a vigilantes, just to seek justice from these bandits and outlaw. Yun yung kaya ang nangyari, maraming patayan those times, no? So in still in policing Americas, no, in cities, in 1636 in Boston, they adopted the policing system in cities of Americas in America. So one is the New York. In New York, they adopted the so-called rattle watch. They are called rattles because they carried with them shook while they patrolled. So ano ba yung shook? Yung para siyang baston na pinapaikot-ikot sa kamay, ah, para siyang nightstick na pinaikot-ikot sa kamay, parang ginagamit na pang takot o di kaya it is also a weapon, a non-lethal weapon used against uh, kung ano, outlaw or say would-be criminals. So when they patrol the streets in New York, they carrying with them shooks, shook, no, while they conduct foot patrol. They are also called rattle watch because most of the member of the New York night watchmen, yan, are old and shivers when they saw trouble. So parang ang nangyari kasi, halos na matatanda na yan, pag may problema, they just shiver or parang in Tagalog, uh, kuan no, ang tawag yan, namumutla. Ayan, when shiver. Okay. So in 1658, paid watchmen in New York. So the first they paid the watchmen in New York from year 1658. And in 1693, the first uniformed police officer was used, no? So, were adopted rather. So, meron ng uniforme ang mga night watchmen sa New York from 1693. And in 1731, the first precinct station in New York was created. Okay? Now, in 1833, Philadelphia is the first to initiate a police force. So, the state of Philadelphia. And in 1844, the New York is the first to establish a unified day-night police force. So, sa New York pa rin, sila pa yung pinakaunang state ng Amerika na gumamit ng police from sundown to sunset and from sunset to sundown. So, in 1865, Massachusetts created the first police force. And in 1866, Detroit Police was created as the first detective unit. Yan. Still in American policing, from 1920 to 1933, this was the era of prohibition and widespread corruption of police. Yan. So during those time, the the no, the proliferation of corruption is so vast, no? So in 1960s to 1970s, civil rights movement and anti-Vietnam War demonstrations impacted on police operations and enforcement. So from year 1960s to 1970s. And on year 1967, LEAA or the Law Enforcement Administration Academy was formed to assist police departments in acquiring the latest technology and adopts new enforcement methods. Yan. So it began in 1967. The LAAA funded many police research projects. So such as the air patrol, the wing patrol, the boat patrol, the aviation patrol, and other types of patrol, because there are so many patrol methods. They also adapted the mounted horse patrol, or the motorcycle patrol, the bicycle patrol, foot patrol, mobile patrol, or motorcycle patrol. So they are the first to do the research projects implementing the different methods of police patrol. Yan. So the state also, or the Kansas City uh, preventive the patrol experiment. So these are the three levels of jurisdiction of their American policing: federal, state, local. So just like our country, if we try to compare it to us, federal, ito yung national. It's the highest form of their government. So sa America, they have also their federal government, or the federal as the highest form. Then it followed the state, no, which is slightly lower than the federal, and then the local. So these are the three major or level of jurisdictions of American policing. Then in 1789, the first federal law enforcement agency, Revenue Cutter System. So ano ba itong Revenue Cutter System, no? So they the revenue cutter system patrol shores of US to prevent smuggling and to ensure collection of revenue. So if you say revenue, income. So just to make sure that their government is quietly protected, they patrol the borders against pirates, tyrants, illegal migrants, or even the coming in of smugglers and drug drugs, no, from other states or from other country to their own states. Yun, kaya nga the US from this time started to make a wall, no, parang tinatawag natin wall, kasi ang, for example, the US and the Mexico, their division is only the river that divides the two uh, country. And again, Mexico is also quite famous when it comes to drugs, cocaines, and illegal migrants. So that is why uh, to increase the revenue of their own government, the American Federal Law Enforcement conducted revenue cutter service. They patrol the shores of the US through waters, air, or even borders to prevent smugglers from uh, let us say, parang 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 tinatawag natin na cutting their revenue, no, or sharing their own revenue, no, kasi ang nangyari kasi, when the smugglers hold a business, or let's say a person, there is what we call revolutionary tax. True, oo, parang parang tatakutin nila yung tao para lang may protection. So that is why the first federal law enforcement in America intends to prevent them from collecting revenue from their own state. So kaya kaya pinagtibay nila ang kanilang patrol sa kanilang shorelines or borders. Okay? So Here comes the 21 separate federal law enforcement agencies in 8 government agencies. So what are these? We have in 1789, the creation of the US Marshal. Yan. So the US Marshal, again, is a highly elite force in the US, responsible for no special mission, no? It could be protecting a dignitary, a president, or a diplomats. And in 1862, the Internal Revenue Service, so the implementation of the Internal Revenue Service, as what I've said, the government is trying to impose their own collection of service, no, to increase their revenue. Then in 1865, the creation of the Secret Service. Yan, ito yung mga agent na, no? So si agent, yan. And in 1891, the Immigration and Naturalization Law was passed uh, and signed into a law, no? So immigration, mayroon na silang tinatawag na requirements for you to become a US immigrant. There are also requirements for you to become a natural uh, citizen of their country or state. In 1901, the creation of the Bureau of Investigation, and later renamed FBI or Federal Bureau of Investigation. In 1914, the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs combined with other agencies and was renamed DEA or Drug Enforcement Administration. So, this is the most popular term today and still widely used in America, the DEA or Drug Enforcement Agent. Ang counterpart niyan sa atin, PDEA. So, their task is to run off these drug lords, drug businesses in the country. Okay. The Department of Treasury also implemented or created other law enforcement agencies. We have the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So, under yan ng Department of Treasury nila. Then, number 2, we have the Internal Revenue Service. Number 3, the U.S. Customs Service. Number 4, the U.S. Secret Service. Number 5, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Okay? So, ito yung mga law enforcement agencies under the Department of Treasury. Then, the federal law enforcement agencies also under the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Prison, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the FBI, the U.S. Marshal Service, Immigration and Naturalization Service. Under the Department of Interior, we have the Fish and Wildlife Service, the National Park Service, and the U.S. Park Police. Yan, ito lang yung wala sa atin, U.S. Park Police, U.S. yung parang tawag natin Park Police. In other country such as America, they have their own Park Police. Yan. So, federal enforcement agencies under the Department of Defense, we have the Criminal Investigation Division, Office of Special Investigations, Naval Investigative Service, Defense Criminal Investigator Service. Then, under the Department of Transportation is the U.S. Coast Guard. Under the General Services Administration, we have Federal Protective Services. Under the U.S. Postal Service, we have the Postal Inspection Service. And under the Washington, D.C. is the Metropolitan Police Department. So these are the federal law enforcement agencies under the department or administration. The FBI or the Federal Bureau of Investigation also is highlighted because of their milestones, such as in 1924, John Edgar Hoover is appointed as the first director in the FBI. And in 1924, Identification Division is created to collect fingerprint files. Yan. So, I am not claiming that the America is the first to use fingerprint, but they are the first state to adopt the their own the proper office for identification division, their own identification division. And in 1930, the FBI begins collecting data from Uniform Crime Report publication. So parang they already adopted a system, no, in order to transact the no, the the identity of the individual, to fasten the identity of the individual to its recognition. And then in say to ayan, in 1932, the crime laboratory is established. So 1932 students, my dear students. In 1835, Texas Rangers, they are believed to be the first state police force. Yan. So they are using the mounted patrol. Oh, yung mounted patrol method. So it is a military unit responsible for border patrol. Yan. So that's why they are using the horse patrol or the mounted patrol just to what? Traverse the cliffs and edges of the mountain. So they apprehend Mexican cattle rustlers. Oh, do you know what is cattle rustlers? Oh, cattle rustling. Yung kung cattle rustling, yung mga tao na nangunguha ng mga hayop katulad ng baka na hindi sa kanila. Oh, even in our country, and we have this problem also, cattle rustling, no? Even in remote areas or high-flung areas, cattle rustling is still a problem because of this outlaw. No? Meron pa rin mga bandits at saka outlaw. Okay, so the state law enforcement of America uses the two models. Now, we have the centralized model and the decentralized model. So the centralized model, it is where all the systems, all the records um, of their citizen will be uploaded in one office only. No, they adapted this model, the centralized model. No, whereas in the decentralized model, it is where they verify the record of the person. Kaya nga, in again, to remind you, perpetrators are easily arrested or identified when crime is committed in their country because they use the centralized system and being verified in their own decentralized model, no? So yung mga police sa kanila, actually, to give you an hint, uh, they carrying with them a software that can identify persons even by his own fingerprints kahit wala siyang ID. Oh. Or even, let's say for example, a simple violation, traffic violation. So if they verify it to their decentralized system, automatically they will identify the person and identify them if the person has a standing warrant of arrest or previous violations that have not been solved or accommodated or reject or that has been tawag natin, neglected by the person. So how I wish we will adopt that model, no? Still a dream, still a dream to us. Okay, so the local agencies and municipalities in America approximately has 13,580 different departments, approximately 420,000 sworn police officers, largest New York, approximately 36,813 police officers, and the smallest is 3,409 department with one police officer or only part-time officers. Ito yung mga tinatawag natin na mga county sheriff, yung mga Yung mga small town sheriff, yung mga county sheriff, yun, ito lang sa kanila sa smallest. Okay. The local agency county approximately has 3,100 sheriff, approximately 155,000 full-time officers, approximately has 89,000 civilian employees. The Los Angeles Sheriff is the only department with an approximate 2,110 sworn officers, 4,880 civilian employees, and is considered as the largest police sheriff in the state. Yan. The Los Angeles Sheriff. Okay? Still in law enforcement state law enforcement, 49 state police department, approximately 42,000 full-time state police officers and others. Okay. So for private protective services, there are nearly 2 million people are working, no, in private security today. Wow. Dami nila, no? Kaya sa kanila uso sa kanila yung mga detective. Yan, detective work, protective and detective work. Sa atin kasi sa Pilipinas, pag sinabing detective protective security guard agency. Yan, sa US, detective protective agency is not a security agency. It is actually a purely detective job, not security. Na kung makikita mo sa Pilipinas yung security, dun lang inilagay sa sa isang sulok o di kaya sa sa pertahan ng isang establishment. So sa kanila, yung private protective services is actually a work of a detective security. Uh, so types of private security services, we have company guard, airport security, bank guards, executive protection. So private protective services, those self-employed individuals and privately funded business entities and organization providing security-related services to specific clientele for a fee. Yan. Kaya nga it's a full-time work. For example, if you believe that your wife or husband has uh, mistress or paramour, no? Kung ang lalaki may kabit, mistress. Pag ang babae may kabit, paramour, no? So, if you believe that your girlfriend has other boyfriend, so you can ensure the service of the detective protective service or a detective for short. No, but this is a full-time job for a fee. Yan. Kaya sa kanilas in America, it is a lucrative job, no? Uh, considering the number of client coming in asking for what? Investigation, protection perhaps. So it's a lucrative business. And then private protective services also for the individuals or entity that retains or employs them or for themselves in order to protect their person's private property or interest from various hazards. Yan. So not only for tracking or searching for missing person, but protection of their persons, private property, and interest from hazards. So, halimbawa, in the company, if you want to your company to be inspected whether or not your company is compliant with the international safety standards, you have to sue the not to sue, but you have to consider the services of a private protective service. Yan. Then types of private security services, we have store mall officer, school security, nuclear facility security, hospital security, automated teller machine services, railroad detectives, loss prevention specialist, computer information security, bank bureau, Wakin Corporation, and others. So this, my dear students, I guess the last uh, this is the last slides that I am presenting to you. And in a second part of this presentation, we will be studying now um, the evolution of police force in our country. So so I will post this on our private group page for you to be able to see, or perhaps take a glance of the topics that I have just discussed. So please bear with me because I am still working on finding, uh, let's say, proper or the most effective platform that we will be using in order to give you the best services that we can give to you, uh, no, our student. Okay. So thank you so much, and bear with me for a moment for the part two of the presentations. Bye bye.